So you can see the theme, cloud native and Felipe's talk and class. So I will not go into the technical details, and it was probably Felipe more than 5 years. I remember cloud container activities starting in 2016 or 17, but it pays, but you need to invest. So I will talk from the perspective about platform, but at a different level here. And it's my second UK HPC AI. I was invited to all three. First one I missed because of accident, so hope to come again next year. So what is Bristol Center for Supercomputing? It's a brand new center, in fact, officially founded. That's why I'm still using the toddler picture here, in Q3 2024. The project in itself is Isambard projects go for much, much longer. And this is about using ARM technologies for HPC. And again, this is another sentiment. So I'm fortunate to be part of like CSCS Cloud Native and looking at ARM, investing in ARM early on, which pays back over time. So I think it's always important to think about in scientific and research computing, you need to start investing early in technologies, both hardware and software that have potential. So what do we do now at BRICS? We run, of course, Isambard-AI, AI Research Resource Service, which was a significant funding. But in addition, we run Isambard-3, which is a Grace or ARM super chip CPU only system for tier 2, as it's called here. We run the AIRRPortal service, which I will present a little bit more because I will give you a different perspective about how other workflows need to be managed when things happen so fast. As Felipe said, software, like the user requirement changes in AI machine learning domains really, really fast. And very recently, with collaboration with the Stack HPC, I think we call them tier 3 university clusters. We have deployed an open stack HPC software-defined cluster we call Digital Labs there. So we are also at Bristol all about cloud native. So I'm going to present a lot of work and I will not be able to acknowledge everyone, but this project was done and I was talking to some colleagues. So from the date the government talked to us and the time all the payments were done was about exactly 2 years. And in those years, when we started, we didn't have a team, we didn't have a data center. So all of it was done really, really fast using different technologies. And that's why I'm emphasizing on sustainability from the point of view of building things quickly, but managing them and growing them in this efficient manner. And the picture you see from the minister, he's no longer the minister of, the local minister is not from here. But he was still the minister at the time, and on July 17, there he came and pressed the red button. If you want to know more why the red button and what did it do, I'm not the right person to answer that. And so, yeah, it was a superb collaboration with contractors, everyone. And so I'm not going to talk about Isambard, what is the hardware and other thing. If you want, I can tell you how to look up. But it is complete, and we are busy running user applications, and the site looked like that. Not very inspiring, but kind of look prison-like, but this is how it is now. So I'm presenting the software stack slightly differently, which we written in the paper, but I will try providing you how it fits in the sustainability model. So what you see in the colorful picture, it's changed a little bit, but we have been using it for almost a year and a half to have a dialogue with our users, because the systems in Switzerland was done slightly differently. You design and do these things before the fact. In the UK, for reasons I will not go into detail, it happened like we started having dialogue with the AI Security Institute. At that time, it was the Safety Institute, to understand how they will use this resource. So I will start by saying, like, what are the proofs, what Isambard has been doing, and some highlights. Of course, I can't talk about all the projects here, but just to say what are the diversity. And because the theme of this conference is AI trustworthiness, so I chose one example that probably fits very well. And then in the last about 12 months, what did we do from a sustainability perspective? And I chose the dimension, how do you do sustainable service management for AI in the research computing communities? How do you do sustainable service delivery? And what does that mean? Of course, these are my views and opinion, and I would be happy to have others. And then finally, of course, we cannot get away talking about environmental sustainability. And what we would like to do next is another important thing. So highlights. And because we did talk about the theme here today, so I think a couple of days or weeks ago, the time is a bit hazy for me right now. This study where they acknowledge the use of, so this is the really close collaboration, and I have my colleague Wahab here who can tell you all about, because he's been sort of, we call them providing a white glove service or co-design to them. And they came out this study, which is really, for me, kind of troubling in some ways, that is so predictable to poison these things. It just, we should take a moment to think about the outcome of these studies. That's what's really, and I think without having access to such powerful resource like Isambard-AI at the national level, we would, or in at the national research infrastructure, it would not have been possible. This is another study, and that has been going around. I think this group also has a collaboration with the DRAC team who are hosting this site. So it's UK large language model, and then they cover, of course, multiple languages, and then the part of they have been one of the heaviest users, and they helped us really throughout this time, setting, tuning, and the system for a large group of users. The final one I would like to just list here, and there have been many highlights. A few weeks ago, like NVIDIA made a few announcements. So this is more the group that is looking for an open version of AlphaFold and working closely. So the group is based at the University of Bristol. So I sort of caption what I call sustainable service management is about empowering our stakeholders and project owners in this context. I think Felipe talked a lot about how we are making users autonomous in terms of bringing packaged software, distributing and providing, like running their CI/CD pipelines natively as they would run everywhere. I'm taking a different perspective here because that is also a given that you could do that. And I'm not going to emphasize why the AI allocations, if you are going to call them, they need to run differently from a, I don't want to make it sound like a negative thing. The HPC allocations, the way things are done, happen at a different time at scales. And one of the things we discussed or decided with our funders and grant holders, that in addition to building the software environment and the ecosystem, it is important that people could access these resources very quickly. So the idea is to go from application to access in a day. So that was kind of, we set as our KPI. We don't quite always make it, and I will tell you the reasons are where humans are in the loop, things happen. But application assessment about, it's all automated pipelines and workflows. And this was, I would emphasize it, a very collaborative approach. So it's not a tool. The tool helped, but that is not it. So first of all, there was a funded project, small, really very small funded project. So that was kind of always makes me smile, between University of Bristol and Cambridge, and they started building this called Air Federation project. And when the machines are coming online, our funders, RECIT and UKRI and stakeholders, they came and they started co-designing the tool as well as the workflow. We used a European technology. Just over 3 years ago, I was in Switzerland working on various federation projects. So yeah, this is the same tool Euro HPC Federation platform is going to use. My access ID is the IDP Federation from Jean. Again, we are involved, but part of it. And in terms of people, and of course, I can't name everyone, Christopher, Ashish, then there are people from the various team. And we had an intern, because we should really not forget we need to bring the next generation along with us. So although we were new, we are trying to always have some interns and CDT. So she was amazing. I think she's doing astrophysics, so something to say about astrophysics. And so you will see her name showing up in the, so the way to think about all of these things is we are also using AI as like, we are eating our own dog food, so to speak. So this is the model we are showing for university allocation from AIRRPortal side of thing. There are some sensitivity issues, but the logic and idea is same. So as a project lead, you want to know, how can I access resources? And you can find the calls. So any one of you who want to know how to access AIR resources, you will be quickly taken to AIRRPortal, where you can register with your email, and you will quickly find out what type of calls are running. And from there, you can start making your application process. I mean, you can save it a draft or continue it. Very quickly, the call manager, people who are doing, I call that capacity management, who owns the capacity, the compute capacity, they start looking at it. If you want the reviewer, they can decide themselves, depending on the nature and the type of the call. They start as soon as the application is submitted. And you can see a progress bar already there. In this case, the process is very lightweight because a small number of resources, the speed is the key. So they can abort project within a matter of hours or a day, depending on that. And then you can already see on both sides how the resource and commitment starts happening. Then the access, as you can see, as soon as it's committed, the credit is added to the project on the other side, on the system side, and people can start using the project. And the stakeholders and the PI or the call managers not only can see, but they can get an overview and more, which is, stay tuned. I will show you in a little bit. So all of this can happen very quickly. So this tool, so we were running a local site, which I'm not going to talk here. You can come and ask offline. Airport, it was launched the same day the red button was pressed. Whatever. Yeah. And since then, and this is the statistics I got like a week and a half ago. So it is used to manage the calls and allocation both on the two AIRR resources, Dawn and Isambard. Others can be added as needed. And the capacity is not just UKRI or one entity or one community doing the allocation. The government has two other departments looking after AI. One is called SOV-AI and another is, as I mentioned, AI security. So they run on manage their own calls and workflow. So you could think that there is a shared resource where capacity is managed by different entities through different calls and different models. A number of applications is yeah, I think they are talking about between 7 to 10 applications per day on most of the time. And the time to application and access, our target was 1 day, it's 1 week. For the reason is the compliance. And I don't want to make any geopolitical or other statements, but the system is Isambard-AI. It has NVIDIA high-end GPUs. And for their access, there are some, how do I say, constraints where you need to check nationality or there's affiliation, association, and sometimes these things end up taking a bit longer. And already over 1 million, I don't know the latest number, and others are consumed already through this since we started. So now I will shift really gears. So you could imagine we are gathering a lot of data. We are getting application data, domain data, system usage information, et cetera, et cetera. How do we make sense of it, especially for stakeholders who would like to make decisions about how do I plan for future capacity, some projections, some scenario testing. So the student, the CDT intern we mentioned, she started looking at this thing called Model Context Protocol. Most of you have heard of it. So Claude and GPT, they are powerful, but we really wanted to contextualize it in the context of this tool. And the idea is you could get more targeted and relevant responses with that relevant data very quickly. And I call it like eating our own dog food. So you could have this was a real world. And when we showed this capacity to our stakeholders, they were their eyes started twinkling. Can we do that? Because the way you have to think about it, it's not that we have not done telemetry or projection. I mean, we all know people who are from technical background, elastic and other capacity, but you need to be an expert to use those tools. Here, the interface for our stakeholders is a prompt, and they do not have to think of that prompt ahead of time. They can do it as they go, as their bosses or their they have other scenario or question testing. So this is the most powerful part of this thing. You lower the access barrier to these tools for people who are decision makers, who are policy advisors. And this helps lowering the barrier, but they are working not on some hunches or something, they are working on with real data. So the way it's Tanya's slide. So from a user point of view, the data goes to this MCP AI host, Registry Cloud. She's using mostly cloud. Sorry, my voice is giving away. Sorry about that. And then the actual data and the way it is contextualized, I will show you some of the other screenshots. You see how that is managed and controlled. And in the back end, it goes to the Volder, the database, but it can go to any other database for that. And the MCP tool, as it says, REST, the API call. So just imagine if anyone can use these are API, but we have designed these tools. So people who are doing allocation or capacity management, they can use it via natural language. So I have videos of that. So if anyone wants to see how it works, I can show you on my laptop, but I tried not to make my file way too big. And as you can see, I mean, to me, it's a bit strange, but because she ran it, so it is always talking to her in the sense. And I think these days, we know if we have used any other prompt-driven tool, this is very normal. But the important thing to highlight here is you can see that the part where you have different blue selection thing, this is where you can start, So we are going to provide some tuned parameters depending on the questions or scenario to our stakeholders anyway. And then you can already see some prompt. So create a dashboard that something could be very general. It could be like simple statistics. Provide me this, how many projects were submitted or how many projects. Then you could ask something which is a bit more complicated, like the prompt up there. List all the projects and summarize their member counts. And then, so the idea is to create graphs and charts so you can look at trends and behavior. And then the final one I will show you is where it's asking for advice. So if based on the historical trend or usage, how should I do do future allocation or take some resources back from a community that is not using the resources? And by the way, DCIT on UKRI, they don't need to talk to us. They can add or remove capacity directly. They like it, and I think, of course, we like it as well. So they are quite autonomous in that. So as it happens, when you start using the tool, you can start seeing the information is coming out. So University of Bristol, actual project, total project consumption, yada, yada, yada. And then there are a few more screenshots where you start getting some more detailed information. And if you have used, which I'm pretty sure everyone has used, it starts like, thinking about it, starts spitting weather, then start thinking. So it is like something you would normally expect, but the way this tooling is designed, it is not looking for any random data. It is looking for the data that is specifically trained to do. So it talks about top consumer, high utilization project. And then this is the part I think that really made our funders or people who were there when we literally sold the airport. I think the text is important, and then it starts providing key insights and trend. And I'm not the one who will verify, and she used because of the data protection reason, not all the real data. And it can sort of give you information, okay, resource allocation patterns, what do you see? Something otherwise, it's not that our community hasn't been doing this thing for a while, but for some of these studies, or either you need some expert or you spend a lot of time to get this thing. Now it is on the fingertips of our allocators and funders. Sorry, my voice is. And then you can get the graphics. So why I say it is good for sustainability? Because if I put myself, me as a resource or service provider, as a DRI service provider, if I have that tooling, I do not have to think if I add a new service, I'm providing HPC and AI service, but if I add, for instance, something else, some other platform, this tooling will make it very easy to specify how it will be added, what is the impact that it will have, and our funders or stakeholders do not have to think and plan for another few years to start using a resource which we designed in a very cloud native way for something else. So it gives flexibility, autonomy, and sustainability to this model. And then it starts becoming a little bit funny, where it says strategic recommendation, and this is pretty obvious thing. So I'm not going to read it. If you if you care, it's saying very obvious things. So the time is short for me for the next part, so I'll go quickly. Another part of sustainable service. So when we started, I mean, up until like we started hiring the team back in March, and we had a very small team, and we were building up, and we are about like 15, 16 people. So we said we have to do more with less, and we will not be able to serve people in a very customer specific way. And one of the things we said, let's empower user, give them information, or in other way, we tell them, please help yourself, or a self-service support model. And saying it is one thing, and there are different ways to accomplish it. I will tell you how we are doing it and how it works, but of course, that's not the only thing. So again, it means that if now our user base grow, we still need more people or more resources, but we will not need them proportionally to that part. And this is in early days, and we have not done as much work as we would like to, but the idea is similar, that we would like some kind of an assistant who look at the documentation. So our team invests so much time on documentation and our target is to resolve majority of our issues and tickets by pointing users to the documentation. I mean, I know everyone reads documentation very carefully all the time, but sometimes if they don't, we still point them and we keep track of those things. But you could do these things with any other tool. You can plug in a notebook LM or other thing. And I certified earlier on, I said, I'm not going to tell you what is Isambard-AI. If you're really interested, you can find out, because you're not coming and sitting, because this information is readily available. But you could ask another question. So suddenly I gave you this talk and you are so keen to apply and get access. It will tell you exactly. There are two ways. If you're academia, do this. If you're so now information is literally at our fingertips, and I think we need to probably start thinking of using that. So this is our page. I'm not going to say, I mean, our team has done a heroic job, and it's amazing. And the page is always live, and we update based on how the issues and tickets are coming in. And I don't think a single character is written by me on this page, so the credit goes to the entire team. And our target, which we have started tracking it, to solve more than 80% of all user issues through documentation. There is another information or view we could get it by that, again, using your own DORF, we look at the geographical distribution within the country and domain. Environmental sustainability, I think Felipe also mentioned, so we use all the green resources, but on top of that, the whole Isambard project was designed to minimize the impact, including the modular data center, and there, I think our community, or I belong to supercomputing or HPC community through and through, more than Felipe, 20 plus years. We really followed the guidelines for our community, this energy efficiency, high performance computing group. So if you haven't done that, look at it. And in the Isambard-AI procurement, we totally leveraged it. And if you look at from their guidelines, most of the time we were able to, through working with the vendor and supplier, either meet the advanced or innovative requirement. One of the things I'm really proud of is how little water we use. So most of the time, unless temperature is over a certain thing, we use no water. So this slide I presented in the US a few weeks ago, and then, yeah. So our water usage is a closed loop, and only in very, very hot month, we use additional water. This is the tooling it needs work. So we are using the normal data center and inventory manager. And the idea is that we start maybe more. Here it's showing the fan zone and speed is in about 3 modular data centers. So there is a lot of telemetry and detail. So it's one thing to say we want to build something sustainable. We need to measure and report it and see whether we have delivered. What comes next? And here I will echo and invite all of you, because we are in a zone, and I know this event is organized by we go at HPC Advisory Council along with Mellanox and NVIDIA, and things are just really expensive in one way, and the total cost of ownership for resources is just, which breaks my heart as a, always working in research or government-funded DRI. And in the Isambard, we got the bits of hardware and parts of software stack, which I call it partially open source and open standard. The top we are providing is there. And the project I define myself, what I would like to do, I call it sovereign and frugal supercomputing, where from the data center to the cabinet and all the parts of software stack, I would like it to be open source and open standard. It's not that it's like a vanity thing. That gives you autonomy. You could build things where, if necessary, you could work with different pieces of technologies or different constraints, especially in the current geopolitical situation. So if any one of you are interested, we are already part of through OpenShami, and some of the tooling I showed in the AIRRPortal is already contributed as part, because open source, open standard also mean we need to be part of the governance and roadmap of those open source software stacks. And this is really, really critical. We are talking to our, the other tool Boulder to go in there. And I think Felipe already showed some of the, so if any of the layer or the whole stack attracts you, come and talk to me, and I would be really happy to have your support. That's it. I thought I had a half finished, for my nostalgic reason, the unfinished version of Isambard site, which is now completely finished, but I'm happy to be there. So with that, thank you.
Thank you, Sadaf. Any quick questions for Sadaf?
Okay.
Okay, got one.
Interesting to see that different to your HPC, you have no peer review and no technical assessment in granting people access to your machine. Does that mean that no matter how inefficient and unqualified your user base, they will nevertheless get access even to your machines? Or is there a security mechanism?
Okay. So as I mentioned in my in my talk, we are running Isambard-AI services and Isambard 3, and then the local selection, and they all choose to have different assessment and evaluation criteria. I will come to the efficiency part in a minute, because I think it is overblown in some ways. So that is allocated across tier 2 through a technical and peer review allocation process, but as a result, it takes longer. So I don't know what point you are trying to make, that people are not running efficiently. The thing is, you could draw the line in terms of our funder. First of all, I don't allocate these things. So, like, but the time to result and the time to enable the AI was way too important for the government. I'm not going to claim that if you spend 3 years, it will be efficient, because by then the solution has been gone. So I think, yeah, if you really insist it is efficient because it is, done very quickly, then I'm not going to sort of say that one way or the other, because I cannot scientifically prove it. Maybe you could. But as Felipe mentioned in his presentation, these software stacks, they work on underlying engine. So most people, bring these containers, and our job as the center provider is to make sure they run on the most efficient networking infrastructure and most efficient GPU infrastructure. And that is what we ensure as an infrastructure